By now, you all know my feelings on the bicyclers of Pittsburgh, my sworn enemy. But in this certain instance today, I find myself siding with Big Bicycle. The Big Bike Lobby and I, for once, are on the same page, believe it or not. The Penn Avenue bike lane, you've heard my thoughts on it. It's a disaster. But they're finally planning to at least fix the existing lane. That's the plan. That's what the city is working on right now. The Penn Avenue bike lane is set to be complete. There's a meeting tonight at Point Park University where they are going to explain the plans and tell you how they plan to complete that bike lane and connect it to the actual bike trail that goes along the river. So the bike lane downtown will now, eventually, whenever they finish it, it will connect to the bike trails that can connect you all the way to Washington, D.C., or up the North Shore, or all of these other places. My question is, why did it take so long? What was the holdup? Why wasn't the completion of the Penn Avenue bike lane a top priority? The delay in completing this bike lane was irresponsible. Allowing it to go unfinished put cyclists in harm's way. It was irresponsible, and there's really no excuse to allow it to go on and on as long as it did. I'm Brian Crawford. You're listening to the River's Edge Radio Network. We're broadcasting from the Millvale Studios. I am your voice of reason among three rivers of chaos. And we're going to talk about this bike lane in depth today. It's disgusting. It really, the fact that it has gone on. This bike lane has been left unfinished. Well, they've put in bike lanes all across the Pittsburgh area. And this bike lane is left to be unfinished. And if you haven't ridden the bicycle before, this bicycle lane before, you may not realize why it's so dangerous. And as you know, I am a big opponent of the Penn Avenue bike lane. I think it was poorly placed. I think it was a disaster. Right now what they did is they turned, and I'm not going to go through the entire thing again, listen to past episodes, but they turned a two-way road into a one-way road with a hotel on that road, and now you've got box trucks backing in across the bike lane with cyclists who won't stop for anyone. It's a dumb idea, but it's there. We have to deal with it. When I was on council in North Irwin Borough, we were part of this group to build a recreation center across the three municipalities that make up the Norwin School District: North Huntington, Irwin, and North Irwin. And the promise was always that no taxpayer dollars would go into building this recreation center. Well, I found out that that was a lie. And they wanted the taxpayers then to back a bond, so if it failed, the taxpayers would be on the hook for it. And then I found out that they went around council's back. Prior to the meeting, they told me that no taxpayer money was used or was to be used, and took a donation from the borough through a council member, and it was allowed. So I opposed the recreation center upon learning this information. I liked the idea of a recreation center, but I did not like the way it was going. And a council member asked me, well, what will you do if this recreation center goes through? I said, if the recreation center goes through, I'm going to support it, and I'm going to want it to succeed. Because we're backing the bond. I don't want it to fail and it to come back on the taxpayers, and once it's built, why would you want it to fail? So I'm opposed to the Penn Avenue bike lane. It was a disaster, but it's there, and it needs to be completed, because right now, the setup that exists currently, if you're a cyclist, you come to a dead end, and then all of a sudden, your light turns green the same time as the light turns green for the automobile drivers, but there's no lane for you. So now all of a sudden, you are driving right out of a bike lane into the middle of a busy intersection downtown, and you're putting your life into the hands of the populace. It's a terrible setup. It's dangerous. I'm surprised no one has died thus far. It's actually, to be quite honest, it's actually very frightening. I've driven there, and I've used that bike lane because I wanted to try it out and give it a test run myself. And I will not exit that bike lane onto the street. And usually, if you've listened to me before, I think if a bike lane exists, the cyclist should be required by law to ride in it. And they don't. And they tell you that they shouldn't have to, because they feel that they're above the law. They feel they can spit in the face of Lady Liberty. But in this particular instance, it's dangerous as hell to try to actually stay in that bike lane. I'll jump off the bike lane right at the tail end and go into regular traffic, because otherwise you're just, again, jumping into a busy intersection of people crisscrossing every which direction, and it's frightening. It's terrifying, actually. So I'm glad to see that they're completing this bike lane. There's an alternative reason that has been floated out there, a conspiracy as to why this bike lane is finally being completed, and we're going to unveil that conspiracy halfway through the show with a new anti-cyclist episode, so that's coming at you as well. We have Amanda Narcisi. She's going to be calling in at 10:15, and we are going to find out what is going on in the city this weekend, what you can expect to do, what's fun, what to drink, what to eat, all of that good stuff coming from boldpittsburgh.com, a great online blog that tells you everything that's going on in the city. She's dubbed the Queen of Pittsburgh by our friend Missy Sorg of Sorgatron Media. They're the ones who bring us Awesome Cast every Thursday and Fishing Without Bait every Sunday. But I found some sad news today. I was at work and I looked down to see what was trending on Twitter, because I was trying to come up with some stuff for the show. And I saw that Alan Thicke passed away. And if you're not familiar, he played Dr. Seaver on Growing Pains. And I really liked Growing Pains. It was a good show, and I typically didn't like that sitcom style where they had the emotional moments and everyone cried for a moment, and then they go back to joy and happy. I always thought they were a little phony, but Growing Pains, the characters in Growing Pains seemed a little bit more real to me. I wasn't a big fan of Full House. I know that's blasphemous to say. I actually like Fuller House better than Full House, to be quite honest. I think it's a better show. I think the serious moments they're a little lighter. They have serious moments, but they're not quite so overly dramatic. So I kind of like that a little bit better. With Growing Pains, they all just seemed more real, the characters, to me. And I liked Alan Thicke. I think he did a great job as the dad. Am I really that upset that he died? No. To be quite honest, I didn't know the guy. And I always find it weird whenever people get so heartbroken and go on these huge Facebook monologues and poems about, how they are so touched and he changed my life and everything else. Alan Thicke didn't change my life. I thought he was a good actor. I liked the show. I found it more surprising than anything. He just actually played a role on Fuller House in Season 2, which was just released on Netflix, and he looked healthy, and apparently he was actually playing hockey when he passed and had a heart attack, so he didn't seem like he was somebody who was in bad health, though he was in his late 60s. But I have a little video here we're going to share with you, and this just talks about, this is part of an interview that Larry King had with Mr. Seaver, Dr. Seaver, Alan Thicke, about his role on Growing Pains. Let's play that right now here on Pittsburgh's Voice for Local Music.
I was just coming off one of the great failures in the history of talk shows. Thanks for bringing it up, Larry. And that was Thick of the Night. And I was just so thrilled to I didn't care if the script was any good. I was just happy to have something to do for a week. And in fact, I was in doing what I had started my career doing, and that was as a writer. I was in pitching a show to ABC, and they were developing it. They liked the idea, and they said, but by the way, we have this other show that we haven't found a male lead for yet, and they could maybe use an Alan Thicke type. And I said, well, I happen to be available.
You're a perfect Alan Thicke.
Otherwise, I was going to be driving the Zamboni for the Kings that year, so I was very happy to get the call. And I remember when I finally got the part, bursting into tears in the parking lot and phoning my two young boys instantly, and just basically feeling that now I'd be able to take care of them.
So that's Alan Thicke talking about his role in Growing Pains. And I think it really was a good show. I think it was, in many ways, I think it was actually kind of underrated. And the way they ended the show was really, really cool. as somebody who grew up in an old house, and their house wasn't old, it wasn't nearly as old as the house I grew up in, believe it or not, even though this was made when I was just born. I believe is when they started making episodes of Growing Pains. But they had an old house. In the last episode, they were moving from the house, and they were talking about the memories of the house, and they showed clips from the show throughout the years, and it kind of reminded me of growing up in a house throughout most of your life. And I grew up in an old beautiful house, and I can kind of relate. It was a good show. I really enjoyed it, and it was really weird because today I was talking to one of the kids at work. He's a holiday employee that they hired for the Christmas season, and maybe he'll get hired on. He's a good kid, a good worker, so I wouldn't be upset if they hired him on. But we were talking about this, and I saw this on Twitter on the break, and I came back and I said, have you ever seen Growing Pains? And he had never seen it. He never saw an entire episode. He's only 19 years old, and it's just weird as somebody who grew up watching the show, whether it be new episodes in the later years or through reruns, because there were a lot of reruns on at the time, and it was one of my favorite shows. And it was weird talking to him, and we got on to talking about other things, and he asked me about 9/11. And the kid's so young, he was only 4 years old when the towers went down, and it was weird to talk to somebody who never really experienced and really had no recollection of 9/11 or what he was doing or the mood of the country or anything else. And it was just a really weird situation. It all spurred from talking about the death of Alan Thicke, a pretty good actor in my opinion. Though I'll be honest, I'm going to be relieved to maybe stop, not to have to hear his tax commercials any longer. We've got Amanda Narcisi up next with what to do this weekend here on the River's Edge. All right, and we're back at the River's Edge. I've got a glass of wine for this segment. Well, really for the whole show, because I can. But a glass of wine I feel is appropriate when we're talking to Amanda Narcisi, because she always has a drink of the week. Amanda, how are you?
I'm doing well. How is everybody this morning?
We're here. We're tired. I'm a little annoyed. I was telling you off air, my employer decided to make me work 7 days next week, so as the song goes, we wish you a shitty Christmas, we wish you a shitty Christmas, we wish you a shitty Christmas and an awful New Year. But, how are you? Hopefully you're better than I am.
Oh, I'm good. I'm on retail mall hours, so my day starts at 7 a.m. at retail hell, and then ends sometimes at midnight in retail hell. So I definitely feel for you there.
You work overnight, some, at your place.
Yeah, sometimes
Wow.
I have to work night shifts, and it's till midnight right now.
I had no idea.
Because we have to stay open for the tumbleweeds that are there after 9:30.
Yeah. Wow. That's awful.
But, you know, it's the season.
Well, if you aren't working, what can you do this weekend? If you're not Amanda or Brian with no lives because you're slaves to the man, then what can you do?
Well, we are in holiday crunch time, of course, so there isn't too many events.
Mm-hmm.
There is a lot, like, it's funny because every local bar and watering hole is still having their ugly sweater and Christmas parties this weekend, so check out your local watering hole for that. The holiday market and things downtown are still going on, so definitely check out those this weekend. Make a dinner reservation, head downtown, go ice skating, do all of that. Because this weekend there's not that many like big events going on because it's obviously the crunch time for people to go shopping and have family parties.
Can I suggest doing that ice skating now before Christmas is over? Because right now they play Christmas music and it really is a pretty magical atmosphere. But as soon as Christmas ends and it gets into New Year's season, I feel like, it's still cool to do, but I feel like it loses some of the mystique.
I agree with you. Last night it was gorgeous. I was downtown last night at like 10 o'clock, maybe actually like 9 o'clock. The snow was falling still. I came out of Parmani Brothers because I went for some food, and I looked down, and all the people were ice skating. The snow was falling. The Christmas carols were on. It just had an amazing ambiance for like 5 minutes, and then I realized I was going to miss my tea, so I had to go. But with all the snow last night, too, I think everybody's starting to get into that holiday spirit. I think it just needed to get cold and snowy.
Mm-hmm.
But there are 2 events I want to talk about, because there's a bar called the Abbey on Butler Street.
Okay.
I've never heard of them, but apparently they have a really funny, event this weekend called Yacht Rock and Caddyshack.
Huh.
They're gonna watch Yacht Rock in its entirety, and then Caddyshack right afterwards. The Caddyshack's one of my favorite movies, so
It's a good movie.
that's one of my top 10 favorite movies.
It's a nice place if you've never been there. It's got a cool vibe to it. It's really nice in the summertime because they have a beautiful outdoor patio area with a fountain.
It used to be a funeral home.
Did it? Okay, that explains why it looks kind of ritzy.
The beauty, yeah.
Oh, neato. So yeah, they have. I thought that was pretty cool. That's a really it's kind of low key, just figure it out kind of thing. A restaurant is reopening. Gyros and that is reopening up at Brew Gentleman. Just a little tidbit. Speaking of reopenings, the Miracle on Liberty that we talked about in our last show last week has been closed for 4 days now.
Oh, wow.
So they put up a sign that said, due to unforeseen things, they had to close. And they said, hopefully be back open, by Wednesday. That was 4 days ago. So we're hoping they mean this Wednesday, because they were only supposed to be here through, January 1st. So now we're starting to go, well, are you going to be closed? Because they did a lot of hype. I tried to go last night, and that's how I ended up at Mini Brothers. I was like, no, just go for one drink and check it out and take pictures and talk to them. Nope, still closed. So
wow, that's crazy.
Stay tuned to see what's going on with that. And then I'll save the biggest event for last. Next week on the 21st, if you are a do-it-yourselfer or an artist, there's this amazing company out in East Liberty called Creative Reuse.
Mm-hmm.
It is
I've
right
heard of
next
it.
to Construction Junction. If you go into Construction Junction, it's around the corner. It is filled with basically everything that you find in your attic that you never want to have anymore.
Okay.
Old yearbooks, old photos, slides, all kinds of interesting stuff. Glassware, fabric, just stuff that if you're a do-it-yourselfer, it's where you go to get stuff. And it's not expensive. I buy old slides. It was really cool. This one time I went in their slide bin and just grabbed handfuls of slides. Here I had gotten a hospital, a teaching hospital in Massachusetts slide, because it was written on the slide what it was.
Mm-hmm.
And it was all pictures of blood cells.
Oh, that's weird.
With different diseases and low counts and high counts and stuff. It was it was really, really neat. Another time I had gotten slides from an art history class and an architecture class. So those were really cool, because as soon as you looked at them, it was all this old art. Because slide projectors aren't used anymore in classrooms. So they are pretty cool. Anyways, to get to the reason why I said this is because they're having their first ever bin sale on the 21st through 23rd. You just can go there and fill up a bin for money with whatever's in the store. So, they get bins and bins and bins of donations, and what they want to do is you'll get 25% off of everything in the shop during extra special sale times. You can either fill a large $15 bag or a smaller $5 bag with those fresh, unpriced goodies straight out of the bin. So they're actually just bringing out the bins of donations they have, instead of them sorting through it and everything else, they're leaving it to you.
Interesting.
So that's pretty cool. So if
Yeah.
you're a do-it-yourself or you have any last-minute Christmas ideas you want to make, they sell everything from wine corks and stuff like that you can make into ornaments and stuff.
Oh, very cool. Have to check it
And
out.
the last event is the biggest event, is at the Allegheny Inn, which is a historic bed and breakfast in Deutschtown.
Yes.
So we're actually helping sponsor this year. We're going to be helping with the cookie exchange table.
Mm-hmm.
You can buy tickets on Facebook or online. There'll be hors d'oeuvres, a meatball fountain. So you'll have a meatball layout with like different meatball bars, basically what they're calling it. So you have meatballs and then different sauces to kind of enjoy. Cookie exchange table. And, of course, this beautiful bed and breakfast to drink wine in, and there'll be cocktails and a whole lot of mingling and fun, some dancing, I'm sure. And, of course, you can rent a room that night for $99 if they're not sold out. So that is something, too, where they're telling people, go ahead and call the innkeeper, let them know they want to stay the night, and you can. There are a limited amount of rooms. There's only like 4 rooms, so that's first come, first served. Sorry if they're already gone.
Wow.
So that's kind of the biggest event. If you want to go to someplace cool, see a nice Christmas tree, party, meet some new people, have cookie exchange. Like I said, we'll be there as Bold Pittsburgh. We'll be there with the cookie table. So
Very cool. Sounds like
the
fun.
biggest one.
All right, Amanda, thank you very much. I appreciate it, as always.
Thank you, guys. Have a great day.
You too. That's Amanda Narcisi of boldpittsburgh.com. You can also hear her every Wednesday morning, except for this Wednesday morning because she's on a crazy work schedule like I am, so she had to skip out on this week. But typically you can hear her every Wednesday morning, 8 a.m. here on the River's Edge with Bold Nights Out. Is Star Wars the worst thing that's happened to the movie industry? Is George Lucas a hypocrite? We're going to talk about that a little bit later in the show. Up next, we have a new episode of The Anti-Cyclist. We're going to get back into this bicycle debate. You can hit us up on Facebook, on the Facebook Live, on Twitter at RiverTalkPGH, or you can call in if you so desire, 412-407-2PGH. If you're listening to this after the fact, I will consider responding to you if you were too lazy or unavailable to watch or listen to the show live. But don't forget, if you like what you hear and you like local music, you too, yes, you, can become part of the local music scene here in Pittsburgh by becoming our patron on Patreon. Just go to theriversedgepgh.com. Actually, don't go to theriversedgepgh.com. Go to riversedgepgh.com. And right there on the right and on the bottom of every page, you can click the Patreon link and become part of the local music scene yourself. But stay tuned, we're going to take a quick break, and then we're back with the Anti-Cyclist here on Pittsburgh's Voice for Local Music, The River's Edge.
Hi, I'm Mike Storr, host of the Awesome Cast, which you can hear right here on River's Edge Radio. We're talking tech, getting geeky every week with people from Pittsburgh in the industry. Go check us out, awesomecast.net, or listen to us right here on River's Edge Radio, Thursday mornings, 8 a.m. after Funny Money.
Da 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 da. The Anti-Cycler, a shadowy flight into a dangerous world of a man who does not exist. Tom Chorba, a young loner on a crusade to champion the cause of the innocent, the helpless, the powerless, in a world of cyclists who operate above the law. Pittsburgh is a city overcome by lawlessness, by the lawlessness with cyclists who spit at the very signs they are bound to obey. A city with a police force who turns a blind eye to corruption. A group of individuals who have used the political landscape to cement their ironclad grip on the roads of the land, leaving helpless, innocent automobile drivers to live in fear and frustration. Tom Chorba, born of the cycling clan, felt compassion for the oppressed and began to work in the shadows as the Anti-Cycler. The cyclist who serves as the exception, who proves the rule. He justly pauses at all stop signs, righteously rears to a halt at all red lights. A man A man so moral, he serves as a shining light in a river of refuse. These are his stories, as read by me, Brian Crawford, here on the River's Edge Radio Network at riversedgepgh.com. It was a cold November morning on Penn Avenue downtown. It was crisp. The air was crisp and cool. It was the kind of air that seemed to open the throat and clear the sinuses. The weather was almost as cold as the cold, ruthless nature in which, through a cooperative effort, the mayor's office and the big bike lobby put a stranglehold over vehicular traffic on a busy road. Our hero, the anti-cycler, was doing a hero-y type thing, and he was helping an old woman cross the road. Just what heroes do. Tom could barely hear what the woman was saying due to her thick Yinzer accent, but he could tell that she was bitching and moaning the whole time. Hey, you cyclists down here ain't got no damn business overtaking over our streets and that. The two were crossing Cecil Place along Penn Avenue when a cyclist ran out in front of a car, and as the bike lane was ending, and he caused the vehicle to veer off and crash into another vehicle, causing a massive explosion. The cyclist nearly took out the old bat, who Tom was helping, in one foul swoop, screaming, "Move it, you hag! These streets are ours now!" And then he sped off. Dealing with the old grouch, our hero, he couldn't chase down the culprit, but rather shook his fist in rage and in anger and vowed to take action. "Pit! Go, cycler, pen and paper!" Chorba yelled at his robotic bicycler, P-I-T-T, or Pit, as he finished crossing the road. Pit responded, "Affirmative, sir," and the bicycle shot a pen and paper out of some compartment that was trapped within the bicycle towards our protagonist, who began writing in such a speed and such a flurry that the average Pittsburgher would only be able to see a blur of motion across the pad. "Eureka! I've done it!" he exclaimed, and he hurried off to City Hall, holding legislation to complete the bike lane in an attempt to alleviate traffic. Eventually, the bike lane was finished, and it connected the bike lane to the trail access, creating a safer environment for all involved. You have to compromise in politics, the anti-cycler explained in his new role as political safety advocate, rather than his usual role as a vigilante. This piece of legislation is our best chance to help everyone. The next phase, we need to require that cyclists are forced to use the bike lanes to free up other lanes for cars. One council member scoffed at the very idea, and he pointed a menacing finger at Tom, and speaking in a booming voice, "Cycling is the future. All other forms of transportation must bow to their will. Cyclist power!" Our hero left, wondering if there would ever be any hope at all. We did have a Facebook comment here, and this comment comes from Petey, who says he was just hit by a car recently he was going through a red light, and he claims that he had a green light in the bike lane, and he says that he hopes that my message is for people to be more safe rather than bashing people who use bicycles to commute. We all share the road. Well, Petey, it would be nice if we actually did share the road, but no, we don't. It's cyclists all the way. Down in Shenley Park, they have signs even telling pedestrians to yield to cyclists. Every sign is yielding to cyclists. They've taken over the roads. We spent a fortune on these bike lanes. A fortune! An absolute fortune on these bike lanes, and they still ride on the road. I remember, this happens all the time. I'll be driving down River Avenue, and I'll see a cyclist riding on the road when there's a beautiful trail that looks over the river, and they completely ignore the trail because heaven forbid they have to use the services that they've demanded. They've demanded these bike lanes, and then they don't even use it. And then they tell you, when they're breaking the law, that they're doing you a favor. Or they're helping you out. Because you don't want to be stuck behind a slow bicycle. So they'll speed out in the middle of an intersection, break the law, run a red light. And yes, there are cars who break the law. But those are individuals who are making a mistake. And it's terrible. They shouldn't do that. But as far as cyclists go, it's ingrained in the culture, Petey. They embrace it. They feel they're above the law. And in many ways, they are. But I've said it once, and I'll say it again. If I get into a bicycle accident, an accident with a bicyclist, and they ran a red light, they split a lane, they decided that stop signs are optional, then not only should that cyclist have to pay for the damage to my car, they should have to compensate me for mental anguish, and they should be forced to shine my shoe for making my foot touch the earth. We'll be back with Star Wars talk next, here on The River's Edge.
Hey, this is Matt Geica, your host of Geik's Got Game, 8 a.m. every Friday here on The River's Edge. I'll take a peek behind the sports media curtain, zoom out for the big picture, and as always, obsess over the details of the sports, teams, and players we love or love to hate. It's Geik's Got Game every Friday at 8 a.m. on The River's Edge.
All right, so Star Wars is coming out Thursday, and I'm excited about that. There's a meme that explains Rogue One and where it fits in to the Star Wars universe chronologically. It's a sequel to the prequels of the sequels of the prequels that are the originals, in which this is a prequel of, but not a sequel to the sequel of the originals. And it actually makes sense if you break it all down, because it's a sequel to the prequel trilogy, which are sequel and blah, blah, blah. It's confusing. Okay, it makes sense if you really break it down. It does make sense because it's before the originals, but it is after the prequels. But then there's that other movie that came after the originals, so it's just a clusterfuck basically. But Mark Hamill had a fantastic comment. He asked he says, to quote him, "So am I in this one or not?" Mark Hamill's just the man. He's just the man. And let's see here. I was kind of amazed because I was at the bar the other day and I was sitting with a friend, and he was asking another friend who was at the bar about plans to go see the Star Wars movie. And I said, "The Star Wars movie? It's coming out?" And he goes, "Yeah, it comes out this Thursday." It really comes out Friday at midnight, so Thursday night if you don't go to bed yet. But I was hoping it was coming out tonight at midnight so I could see it tomorrow. But no, of course I can't do anything. And that kind of leads me to my point. I had no idea that the movie was coming out. And anybody who knows me personally knows how shocking that really is. I mean, that's earth-shatteringly shocking. Because I was, probably one of the biggest Star Wars fans in Western Pennsylvania. I used to be able to tell you how to build a lightsaber. I was involved in gaming clans, and I used to watch every movie multiple times a year. I own the original box set, VHS, still in the wrappings, that I found at a flea market, and it was just such a widely known fact that I was such a huge fan that people would randomly tell me when these things would appear so I could go out and buy them. I was a huge fan, and I didn't remember that this movie was coming out. I knew that they were making a movie, but I had no clue it was coming out already. And it was shocking. And it really shows you the sacrifices that you make as an entrepreneur. So I'm working overnight at this job, and I'm here in this studio every day. And because of yesterday, where Alex Clements, who's the producer of the Mike Sasson show, she was feeling under the weather. She wasn't able to make it in, so I was on air, and I was producing for Mike's show yesterday. So that's Tuesday, and now Thursday, I feel like I'm going to be on Thursday for something. I don't know. Maybe I'm not. The days run together, but I'm going to be on air a lot this week, and I'm doing extra stuff. And yesterday was my day to sleep in, and I wasn't able to do that, so I'm on no sleep again. And now I find out that I'm going to have to work 7 days a week at my paying job on top of the hours that I put into this. And you just start losing track of things. I forgot that Star Wars was coming out. A few years ago, that never would have happened, ever. I would have had that marked on the calendar for months and months, probably a year in advance. I could tell you every character who's in the movie, what the movie is supposed to be about, everything. I know nothing about this movie. I am going in completely blind to what this movie's about. I'm a huge Penguins fan, or at least I was. I still like the Penguins, but I've seen one game this year. One. And that includes TV and in person. It was one game. I went down to the arena, and it's the only game I've seen this year. I couldn't even tell you who the new players are, if there are any new players. I used to watch every single Penguin game, and then I would watch every single game in the NHL during the playoffs. Every game. It didn't matter what team it was. If the Penguins got knocked out, I would still watch every game until the end. Now I've seen one Penguin game this year. And those are the sacrifices that you make when you become the owner of a small business, when you become an entrepreneur, when you try to make something new. But we were talking yesterday on Mike's show, and that's one thing actually. He asked me about a commercial for Comcast, and I had no clue because I don't watch TV anymore. I don't have time. But we were talking about doing something, about having a goal or a passion in life, and really, are you living if you're sitting at home and you're vegetating, watching TV? Yeah, I'm busy, I'm tired, I don't get any sleep, I'm running around like crazy, I'm staying up till 2 p.m. when I should be in bed by 9 a.m., but we're building something very special here, and I've met some amazing people, and I see amazing shows, and I learn amazing things, and I have the opportunity to express myself 3 days a week, 3 to 4 days a week, and it's incredible. By the way, this week is a 4-day week, and we're going to be broadcasting live from Nova Cafe Saturday morning with Jay Cooper and Howie D. Mack, so definitely be sure to come out and get some great food and see us live, or listen in at riversedgepgh.com or watch, but definitely you want to stop by. Nova Cafe is awesome, really good food, and really, really good prices, but yeah, you just run non-stop. You're at work even on your breaks, texting, making schedules, doing all sorts of crazy stuff, but that's the life that you live, and I don't know, to me, it's crazy. Some days I miss things like walking through the woods on a day off, or kayaking on the river, or watching a TV show, or even just knowing when the Star Wars movie's coming out. But again, we're making something special here, and in the end, I think it's all going to be worth it. But the question I want to pose to you, Tara, and if you're listening, you can tune in via Twitter at RiverTalkPGH. You can call in at 412-407-2PGH, or you can hit us up on the Facebook Live. I don't know if you have that up to view any comments that are coming in. I don't know if we have any yet. A lot of times people like to just listen to my voice, and they don't actually comment because I just have such a soothing voice.
You leave no questions.
That's right. So, but I do have an important question, and I want it answered immediately.
Okay.
Did Star Wars save the movie industry when they changed it, or did they destroy the movie industry?
Destroyed.
Okay, why?
Yeah. Well, it's obvious. Disney, right? They bought it, and they're going to be adding.
But did the original Star Wars?
Oh, no! They saved it. They changed it.
Why? Explain. Elaborate.
It was a revolutionary endeavor.
Okay.
Right?
Sure.
Like nothing had ever been made.
It changed movie making forever, and
right,
that's
and
without a doubt.
Movies are still new, right? Like a really new art form compared to lots of other art forms. So it's still a little clunky, I guess. No, everything that I've ever felt about it is that it changed everything. Like Jaws, like I wish I could have seen those movies in the theaters when they came out.
See, I agree with you to a point, but I also adamantly disagree with you. And the reason why is I think Star Wars destroyed story making in movies. Because everything
You don't
now...
like the stories of the first three?
Oh, I absolutely do. I think they were fantastic. I think they were masterpieces.
Yeah.
And I'm not blaming George Lucas for what he did. I think he created a masterpiece. anybody who knows me knows that they are by far my favorite movies among them. But since Star Wars, because of the success of Star Wars and because it was so successful, and again, I'm not faulting George Lucas or 20th Century Fox for what they did, but they've created a situation where everything has to be a blockbuster. Everything has to be a slam dunk.
I don't think Star Wars created that mentality.
Don't you think it started it? Because they were the first, like, really...
Blockbuster movie?
Yeah. On that scale. Nothing was ever on the scale of Star Wars before that.
Of, like, revenue, you mean?
Yes, and just
specifically.
well, that in the production value that went into it. And I think that was great. The special effects are great.
Yeah.
But I feel we've gotten to a point where storyline is the stories are way on the back burner. A dimming light, and special effects are pretty much it. And
yes.
And I don't mind special effects when they're coupled with a great storyline. But I would rather watch a low-budget movie with a great story than a huge budget movie with a very bland story, or a very generic story, or a very safe story, or a redone story for the third or fourth or fifth or sixth time.
Yeah, I agree.
And in that way, I think Star Wars may have destroyed the movie industry. Again, not that I'm blaming them.
Why does it have to continue to exist, you know? That's what...
Because they're greedy in Hollywood and they're unwilling to take risks.
So, like, there's nothing wrong with the movies with the first three, or even the, you know...
Oh, there were many things wrong with the prequels. The first three, I definitely agree. Oh, the prequels were an abomination. They were terrible.
God.
They were an insult.
Then what is the newest one? Is that...
That one was great, actually. I think Disney saved the Star Wars franchise.
No, I don't feel that way at all.
You think the prequels were anything but horseshit? Rat piss?
I think that they were trying
in movie form?
to tell a legitimate story as opposed to creating
with all of the loopholes,
a theme park and like Christmas toys for you to sell in 2017.
Disney is doing a much better job of telling a story.
I don't feel that way at all.
The newest movie that just came out, Force Awakens, had much more of a dynamic storyline and
no, dude, it's the same recycled Hollywood blockbuster Marvel type thing with a little nostalgia sprinkled in there.
Well, I think they brought it back to the essence of Star Wars, which is a core group of people. They've introduced new characters. They had the old characters in there, and obviously they phased Han Solo out. And
phased him out.
They phased him out. I think Leia's gonna have
got chopped in half.
Yeah, Leia's gonna have a more marginal role in the next movie. I think they use the old characters to bridge the gap, and they've created a new band of characters that people can get behind and people can feel compassion for, instead of just a sloppy mess of CGI with no actual actors. And
it's so 90s and I love it.
The new ones, you mean?
Yeah, like the episode 1, 2, and 3.
Oh no, they're awful. They're terrible. The acting was terrible.
Pod racing. Oh my god.
It was stupid. What? Tell me how that was relevant to the plot in any way.
It didn't need to be relevant to the plot. It was badass.
That's exactly what's wrong with movie making, and that's exactly my point. It had nothing to do with story. It had absolutely everything to do
Quidditch and Harry Potter. It's this thing that's never been done before.
But Harry Potter's also a book series. This is a movie. It's a little bit different. You have time to expand in a book series, and Harry Potter was a movie that was created from a book series. This is supposed to be a movie. It had no relevance to the point. The plot was forced. There are huge gaffes when trying to connect the prequels to the original, like the fact that Obi-Wan doesn't remember R2-D2, but R2-D2 saved his life on like a handful of occasions. How's that even possible? It doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
Maybe he was pretending.
Maybe he was going through Alzheimer's. I don't know. But
in what movie are you talking? Which one's this?
A New Hope. Right in A New Hope. Okay. He says, I don't ever recall owning a droid before, which maybe, he didn't own R2 technically, but he would have at least remembered him.
I see.
How do you not remember?
No, I like that.
What happened in the prequels?
I like that.
With everything that R2 did to save all of their asses on more than one occasion, how in the hell does this old bastard not remember R2-D2 in his later ages?
Well, who did R2-D2 originally belong to?
He originally belonged to either the Queen or her peoples. He was an astromech droid serving on Queen Amidala's private
Tatooine.
Ship. No.
Wait.
From Naboo.
Naboo.
Yes.
Okay.
Tatooine is the sand
Oh, okay.
world. Yes. So, yeah, and it was so forced. There was so many plot holes, things that didn't make sense. Yoda in episode, Yoda rather. Well, yeah, Yoda, a combination of Yoda, more Qui-Gon Jinn, bastardized the entire essence of what the Force is. Yoda eloquently put out what the Force was in episode 5 as this mystical energy field that bound the entire universe together, from you to the rock to the birds to the swamp to all of these things. It was a very wonderful scene where he's describing the Force to Luke, and they had the great music from John Williams behind him, and it was very very cool moment. And then in episode 1, Qui-Gon Jinn pulls out a scanner and scans the blood content in Anakin and goes, "Oh, there's bacteria in you, so you've got more Force than me because there's bacteria." Instead of somebody who's instead of a wise person who's in tune with nature and in tune with this energy field and maybe has a better understanding or a better grasp of it and knows how to manipulate it, as Yoda described, instead now it's bacteria, and you've got better genes than me, so now you're a better mystical wise Jedi or Sith because you've got the genes, baby.
Well, he was wrong, right? He should have listened to Yoda and not trained Anakin, right?
Well, but Yoda agreed with him, and he said, "Oh, he's got more genes. He's got the bacteria."
No, they
said he shouldn't train him.
The Jedi Council was
They said he shouldn't train him, but they
firm.
did not refute the fact that he had the bacteria in his blood. It became all science instead of this mystical energy field. They completely changed the definition in episode 1 from what it originally was in the masterpieces, which were the original trilogy. Episode 1 was horseshit. The entire prequels, they were horseshit. They were bad movies, to be quite honest.
Okay. All right.
Terrible.
I don't feel that way.
You like them.
I do. I love them.
You're wrong. They're terrible.
I like to hate on the newest one.
See, I think that is light years beyond the prequels. It's nowhere near the originals. I mean, nothing will touch the originals.
No, I know. That's why I just wish it would honestly stop in its current form.
Well, I agree with you. I've always felt that they should have ended it.
They can go build a world in Disney World if they want to, but I don't want to,
I will agree with you there, but I've always said that...
I don't want to keep seeing R2-D2 on Target commercials. It makes me sad.
Well, I think that they should have ended it after episode 6. I think the originals...
Just keep it at 3?
Yeah.
Well, I know, but George Lucas has just had his sticky little hands in all these things for 40 years, and
he
there's
destroyed
all
it.
yeah, maybe.
I mean,
I think that he's amazing. I love George Lucas.
He
can do no wrong in my eyes.
He can do plenty wrong, and he has. In fact, I think he's the worst thing that happened to Star Wars, even though he created
my
it. It's interesting.
Maybe.
If you ask most diehard Star Wars fans, what is the best Star Wars movie out there, what would they say?
Episode 5.
Episode 5, Empire Strikes Back. What would they say is the worst 3?
Episode 1, 2, and 3.
Yes. Which movies did George Lucas have the most influence in?
1, 2, and 3? Did he direct them?
Yes, he was extremely
or whatever.
involved. Which movie did he have the least impact in?
Episode 5.
Episode 5. George Lucas is a great idea guy. He's not a very good execution guy. Though I do think episode 4 was very good, but at the same time, he was held back some, and he was given some restrictions based on the network and what the network wanted. So he didn't have free reign like he did in episode 1, 2, and 3, because he built the clout up through episodes 4, 5, and 6, creating such a masterpiece out of those 3 that he had pretty much free reign to do whatever he wanted to do in episodes 1, 2, and 3, and he proved why he needed somebody watching over his shoulder.
Maybe he will be erased from memory by
Well, he pretty
Disney
much is.
World.
I mean, Disney pretty much kicked him out. He has pretty much no say in the new
I can't
movies.
believe, I couldn't imagine, having worked, selling your life's work.
I mean, that's his own fault. I mean, he tried to... Now
he's
now
cool
he's
with
coming
it,
out... Well, no,
obviously.
he's not cool with it. That's the funny thing, okay?
I don't want to hear it.
I don't want to hear him bitch either. He came out and he's bitching about what Disney's doing. It's like, well, then don't sell it. You shouldn't have sold it then.
Yeah. J.J. Abrams definitely knows what the audiences want.
Yeah.
He knows what he's doing.
Well, that's what people kind of complain about, and this is one criticism I will grant to the newest movie that he did, was it was in many ways very similar to the original 3. But I think you needed that as a stepping stone to allow this universe to continue to grow, because old curmudgeon fans like me were so disheartened and disenfranchised from the prequel trilogy that it was going to take something like that to get us excited about Star Wars again, and it did. It made me excited about Star Wars again when I pretty much had written Star Wars off as far as any new content goes. And their new animated series is fantastic as well, Rebels. That's really great, yeah.
I worked for a literacy nonprofit, and we gave away a lot of Star Wars books. There's all kinds of Star Wars books, merchandise, and
I mean, George Lucas even, like, and this is where and I wanted to talk with you about this.
Oh, so much money.
He's a hypocrite, a huge hypocrite. And here's why. You saw what he did with the special editions, right? Where he made the movies worse by adding
those are the ones,
effects.
I had those on VHS, like the original 3, but like the updated version.
Okay, so yes.
Those are the ones that I was familiar with.
The original unedited versions were actually better, and they removed some really cool scenes. Like there's during the Death Star battle, there's actually scenes of Imperial fighters, like not fighters, but Imperial gunmen on the Death Star with turret guns shooting out at planes flying by, which is cool. Another scene that they changed was, well, you're aware of who shot first, Greedo or Han, right? Where he changed that. He made
Han not shoot first.
He made Han a bitch, basically.
Yeah.
When Han was a badass before. And he was a smuggler. He was a badass smuggler, and no, he wasn't a choir boy. That was kind of the point of his character. He wasn't a choir boy, right?
Well, why do you think, who gave him pushback on that then? Like, why would he, or was that in his own George Lucas's heart?
That was his own decision to make Han a choir boy. When, I mean, common sense tells you he wasn't a choir boy. He was a smuggler. He's a smuggler!
Yeah.
He wasn't a choir boy. It made sense, and that made him an interesting character. And if you notice from episode 5 even from episode 4 to episode 5, his character changed. He kind of evolved as a human being, and as the series went on into episode 6, he evolved even further. It makes sense. He was kind of a rough guy, and he evolved into this freedom fighter. And it's an interesting storyline. He wasn't, I don't know, Martin Luther, like, nailing the 95 Theses on the wall and, just like this all-around saint who
wanted the world to be a better place.
No, he was a greedy motherfucker who was a smuggler, and he turned into a good person as time went on. And that, to me, is a much better story than choir boy becomes a preacher, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, that was a mistake. He ruined Boba Fett by making him sound like an Aussie when he had that cool metal voice, like that helmet voice, you know what I mean? They changed him. They just did everything wrong. I mean, it was... Now, they did a few good things with the special editions where they edited the lightsabers to make them look a little more realistic and things like that.
Yeah, and like all the Snow Planet stuff.
A few things. Well, yeah, a lot of that was original.
Made it a little nicer.
A lot of that was original. The one thing that they did is under the speeders on Tatooine, there used to be an orange glow underneath it, and they were able to edit that out to make it look a little more natural. So that was a good thing as well. So there were some good things that they did. But overall, it was a mistake. And this is why he's a hypocrite. I don't know if you know this. Okay, so George Lucas completely changed the originals after he put them out. Agreed? In many ways.
No, I don't agree that he completely changed the originals.
Not the storyline, but he completely changed the look of it, and he edited things. There are complete scenes that he added in. Jabba the Hutt, for example, was not in A New Hope originally. That was a scene that they decided not to put in because they didn't have the technology to make him the way they wanted him.
They made him, and they did a CGI.
Yes, he was a complete CGI character. Also, there's a scene on A New Hope. Do you remember when Han is being chased by stormtroopers through the Death Star, and he gets to a point where there's an entire, like, he comes to like an entire, like, basically like loading dock of like TIE fighters and stuff like that. It was funnier in the original because it was actually a dead end wall. He's running, and all of a sudden he runs to a dead end wall, and he's like, "Oh shit!" He had to turn around and start firing because there was nowhere else to go, literally. They added that in, but George Lucas, I don't know if you know this, he testified before Congress to fight against the colorization of black and white movies. Because he said that you shouldn't edit or change the existing art of a finished movie. Or a movie that exists. You shouldn't go back and edit or change that. And he actually testified before Congress to try to put in legislation to stop production companies from colorizing black and white movies.
But the thing about the Star Wars movies is that they're his movies.
what if somebody wanted to colorize a movie? He's testifying before Congress that would forbid them from colorizing a movie.
Yeah, I think like the original art form in the original vision of the artist should be maintained. I think that's important. But yeah, I mean, you know, whatever. He's
a hypocrite.
He's a billionaire. He's like he's fine.
He's a hypocrite. Yeah. I mean, I'm one of those people. There's an interesting documentary you should watch, and I'll recommend it to all the listeners out there. It's called The People versus George Lucas, and it goes in depth into the love-hate relationship to that old school Star Wars fans have with George Lucas. And it's interesting, and it really describes me to a T. There's a South Park episode where, like, I don't know if it's George or who it is, but they're, like, literally raping Indiana Jones because of the way that they destroyed that franchise with the newest Indiana Jones movie. But it's an interesting movie. Another one I would recommend, and this guy's documentaries are very hit or miss, but his documentaries on the prequel trilogy for Star Wars are spot on. Confused Matthew.
Okay.
Really great. And one of the things that he talks about is, which is kind of interesting, about the entire setup of the Republic. I wonder if I can even find that in here. Because this is really pretty good. YouTube. Let's see if Confused Matthew is on here. His Phantom Menace review was fantastic, where he talks about the trade negotiations and how... Oh, what am I doing? I'm going to... I can't play anything off of this, can I? I can do it on my phone. If I can find it, we may try to play this piece here. But it's great. Confused Matthew. Look it up. I'm not going to play it right now because I don't have it queued up. It's going to take me too long to look it up. Unless we can go on a break. We'll go on a break, and if I can find it, we'll play it. If I can't find it, then we will go straight into the weird news. So you'll know if we go right into the weird news that we were unable to find it. But I'm real excited to see Star Wars. I don't know when I'm going to be able to see it because I'm working 7 days a week and I still got to run all of this shit. But that's what it takes when you're changing radio altogether. But we'll be back after this here on the River's Edge.
It's Henry Boney. Okay.
No,
Henry Boney.
You're making up names.
Like, weren't Lewis and Clark sleeping with Indian girls all the time?
No, they were sleeping with each other, I'm sure of it. Right. They had a dog named Seaman.
Win in Sparta.
Their dog's name was Seaman. Dearest Lewis, can't wait to get you in a woods with 20 strapping young boys and a dog named Seaman.
Hey, Money Bags. Tune into Funny Money at 7 a.m. Thursdays.
Did you hear Tom? He said 7 a.m. Tune in.
All right, we're back here on the River's Edge. I'm Brian Crawford. I am the host with the most, the master of the Millville Shore, and because I'm so great, I was able to pull up and queue up this Confused Matthew review. I'm telling you, Tara, these movies were horseshit, and from the very first scene of the movie, they already were just entrenching themselves in plot holes and just nonsensible writing. Let's play this from Confused Matthew.
The day that Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, was released, I was really, really sick.
I was sick after.
My brother and all of our friends got to go see it on opening day, while I was stuck at home with a box of Kleenex next to my nightstand and a bucket on the floor for me to throw up in. As it happens, I had a better time than they did. Episode 1 is going to be a hard one to review for me, for many reasons. First off, so little happens in the film that it's going to be kind of like trying to review a film about a man who walked from one side of the street to the other side of the street. What can you really say about that? Second, it's going to be hard as hell to say anything about this film that hasn't already been said. This is why, with apologies to anyone who is looking forward to this, my review will contain no criticisms to the character Jar Jar Binks. What can I possibly say about this bull-ass crap of a character that hasn't already been said a million times already? If I had it my way, I would have started with episodes 2 and 3. Dear God, is there a lot to say about those messes. But I promised full reviews for all of the prequel films, and there is certainly enough wrong with this one to have a pretty substantive review, including a few problems that I can't believe anyone didn't notice. So is everybody ready? Here we go. The film opens to the following information. There is dispute over taxation to outlying star systems, and the Trade Federation is trying to resolve this by setting up a blockade of battleships to stop all shipping and trade with Naboo. So the Chancellor of the Republic has sent 2 Jedi to negotiate on the matter. Okay, so, what's the Trade Federation? Are they part of the Republic? What's Naboo? Is it part of the Republic? And if the answer to both these questions is yes, then why is the Republic trading with itself? How is it beneficial for the Republic to cut off trade with itself? Why does a republic have a queen in it? And what's more, what are the consequences if the trade routes are blocked off to Naboo? What are the Jedi negotiating about? And what will be the consequences if the negotiations fail? Also, the Jedi are part of the Republic. So again, if the answer to my first 2 questions is yes, then the Republic has sent the Republic to negotiate with the Republic about lifting trade sanctions on the Republic. This is the equivalent of a guy standing alone in a room and saying, "Shut up. No, you shut up. You shut up. You shut up." Also, if this whole thing is about tax violations on the part of the Naboo, you'd think the Republic would send tax collectors to resolve this, not the people who merely deliver the goods. And what the hell is a trade federation doing with a huge army in the first place? Unless it's the Republic's army, in which case they really are robbing Peter to pay Paul. Of course, it's also possible that the Trade Federation is not part of the Republic. But then, why the hell is the Trade Federation taxing Republic citizens? Wouldn't that be the job of the Republic? Why are they worried about breaking Republic laws if they're not part of the Republic? And why do they have a little floaty ship at the boring-as-hell Senate meeting? But all of these questions quickly become pretty meaningless, as when the Jedi are discovered, the Trade Federation immediately begin trying to kill them and landing ground troops on the planet. So, now I'm really confused. Are they trying to tax these people or kill them? And why the hell does a republic have a queen in it?
So, that's pretty much the intro to his Phantom Menace review. His reviews for the prequels are fantastic, but you can see right there, it makes no fucking sense.
Can't argue with that.
No. So, watch his review, Confused Matthew. It's unbelievable, his reviews on the prequels. I highly recommend them. But Phantom Menace, yeah, what a nightmare. It makes me sad just thinking about it. And I remember when it came out, there was so much hype about it, and they did a very good job marketing it.
Yeah, the toys were cool.
Yeah, the toys were cool, and actually there are a lot of good elements to it if Lucas had any idea of how to put a story together and connect it to the original trilogy and didn't use all CGI. And actually, I will say one thing about Phantom Menace, it had, in my opinion, the best lightsaber battle of all of the Star Wars movies. All of them.
Qui-Gon Jinn
and Darth Maul, and then when Obi-Wan was involved as well. But do you know why that was so good?
Why?
Well, first off, I didn't think everyone was impressed with Yoda spinning around. First off, I thought that was an insult to the character. Yoda is supposed to be a wise Jedi master. I thought it was kind of, to be quite honest, I thought that it was kind of beneath him to be put in that kind of a role, beneath that character. All of the lightsaber battles in episodes 2 and 3 seemed completely fake. So much CGI. Most of the characters were doing things that the human body physically could not do. In episode 1, the guy who played Darth Maul was an actual martial artist. So everything he was doing was legitimate. The human body could do it, and it was all really well done because the guy was a professional. And the lightsaber battle was fantastic because of it. I mean, it was way better than the originals, and that's probably the only time you'll ever hear me refer to any other Star Wars movie as better than the originals in any way. And that's because, Mark Hamill was not a martial artist, and neither was Alec Guinness or any of the other actors in the original trilogy. So,
right.
I mean,
nor were they real Jedis.
Well, no, yeah, and they weren't computers either. So, I don't know. But that was really good. And then there were some good characters. I thought Qui-Gon was a good character. But again, the acting was terrible, and I don't blame the actors because there were actually a lot of really, really high-quality actors cast
Hayden Christensen
into those movies. Yeah, but
don't like him.
Well, maybe not him, but the guy who played Obi-Wan is really good. Samuel L. Jackson's been good in other movies. There were some good.
Natalie Portman.
Yeah, but I'm not saying they were all great, but some of them were. And even the good actors were really bad. But it's a time when CGI was new, and there was practically no actual people there. I mean, half the time they're just acting to themselves to a green screen to some creature that doesn't exist. Even the clones, they were all artificially done. It just looked fake a lot of the movie to me. I don't know. To me, I like the old school models, and the way that they came out with the sounds in the original trilogy was so fantastic too. They would actually use things like a blow dryer and blow a blow dryer out to make the sound of different things, and they used regular household items and they made them sound high tech.
Yep. That's when creativity thrives.
Yeah. Really, really
now
cool.
With whatever they were doing in the 90s.
Now it's a few guys in a back room click a few buttons, and I shouldn't say that. There's some very good art to that kind of movie.
And costumes and stuff were all pretty amazing.
Well, I think like Naboo was really well done.
Yeah,
that was
pretty
really
epic.
beautiful.
Yeah.
A lot of the scenery was very beautiful, but they didn't have to CGI every little bit of everything. I think he was.
That's what he was waiting for, though, right? He was waiting for that.
Here's the difference between
moment in time,
the prequels and the originals, and this goes to my point about how Star Wars kind of ruined the movie industry at some level. In the originals, George Lucas had a really cool story that he needed to tell, and he had to stretch the limits of technology to put that story on the big screen. In the prequels, George Lucas had a lot of technology he wanted to show you. So he had to throw a storyline together to get that technology on the big screen. That's the difference between the originals and the prequels, in my opinion.
Yeah. I think that, he waited until technology kind of caught up to what he wanted to be doing, right? Isn't that why he waited to make episode 1, 2, and 3?
I just think he...
he wanted to be doing all the CGI stuff.
Not really,
anyway,
because there were reports before that he said he would never replace actors with computers.
Really?
And pretty much all the prequels were replacing actors with computers. I mean, 90% of the cast was replaced with computers.
In those Trade Federation? No, there was, people with...
All the clones were all CGI.
The clones?
That's, the vast majority of the actors in that movie were CGI creations. All of the great, the great aliens and stuff like that. Because even in episode 6, Jabba the Hutt was an actual person.
A puppet. He was a puppet.
Well, no, the one in Return of the Jedi was, but even in A New Hope, there was an actual person who played Jabba the Hutt, and they put CGI over him.
That's
so
cool.
They even still had somebody there to act and interact with and things like that. So, even Chewbacca had his own lines. I don't know if you know that. Many people do not realize that, but Chewbacca actually had his own script. And they put the growling, or I can't do a Chewbacca, but however you do it. They put that over top of the guy who played Chewbacca. He had a very rich British accent, actually.
What kinds of things would he say?
I can't really tell because you can only hear parts of what he was saying. It's been a long time since I've seen the documentary too, but they didn't show you the actual full filming. They showed them filming with somebody talking over them in an interview. So you could kind of hear him talking, but you weren't really hearing just him acting with the other person, if that makes sense. You were listening. Yeah. You were kind of seeing him act with the other person. You could hear it in the background while somebody was giving an interview, but you could just tell his voice. He had a very rich British accent. And it was interesting because a lot of Star Wars was filmed in Britain. A lot of it still is.
Cool.
So, yeah. Well, let's cue the weird news music. And we can wrap the show up. So there's not much to this story, but I thought it was worth talking about just because it's kind of cool. And I really don't think the music is appropriate to this story because it's kind of a highbrow weird news rather than a trailer trash weird news. But a man has created an entire T-Rex via balloons. And we have a picture if you're watching on Facebook Live or watching on YouTube after the fact. If you can pull that up for me, Tara.
There.
You can see it there. It is completely made of balloons. And it's
really cool.
It is very, very, very cool. So that's the weird news. Really not much to it. I just thought I wanted to share that with people. Look it up. It's on the Huffington Post's Weird News section. If you just Google Huffington Post Weird News, you're going to find it right there on the main page. But that's it for me. We're going to wrap the show up. Today is Wednesday. Don't forget, this Saturday, I'm going to be at Nova Cafe with Jay Cooper and Howie D. Mack, and we're going to do the show live. We're going to eat breakfast. You should come down and eat with us. Good food there. I love their breakfast sandwiches. They have really good breakfast sandwiches at Nova Cafe, and lots of good stuff right there if you want to. Yeah, there we go. And what is today? Today is Wednesday, right?
Yep. 14th.
Today's Wednesday. Yes, we've got Funny Money tomorrow at 7 a.m. Awesome Cast at 8. And then also tonight, I forgot to mention this. Tonight, Matt Geica is actually starting a new thing. He's going to be doing a Penguins post-game show right on the River's Edge Facebook page and via the live video page. This is exclusive to video, so it will not air over the radio network at riversedgepgh.com, so you're going to have to watch it either on Facebook Live or at riversedgepgh.com. It'll be right there under the live page. Lots of good stuff. Very excited for this show. I will be back Friday. Tara will be with me, and then I'll be back Saturday. Lots of good stuff. I will see you then. You're listening to the Pittsburgh's Voice for Local Music, the River's Edge Radio Network. We have local music up next. Stay tuned.